Ayo! Welcome to episode 5 of Create This Book Too by Mariah Elizabeth and Ashleigh Monet. That would be me. I am so very ready for the last video of 2023. Well, okay, it's the last that I'm making before the new year, based upon where I am in the editing process. You probably won't be seeing this until the new year starts. But that's okay, that's okay. This is the end of an era. We are starting a new year. Starting fresh, hopefully we won't be as delayed on some things. We have 3 prompts to tackle this week, but enough of me talking. Let's jump right in and see what I can create. Before we begin, I want to bust open these brand new Posca paint pens that I got for Christmas. I mentioned them in my last video, the Q&A, and since I've never used Poscas before, I think now is the time to dabble. I don't think I'm going to do a whole piece with them, but I will definitely try and use them at least a little bit in each piece this week. Let's see what the hype is all about. Now for the first prompt of the week, create a scented page. Use this page to capture your favorite scent. For this, I wanted to actually make this page smell good, so I thought the easiest solution was to use a real perfume. This one is my absolute favorite, Marc Jacobs Daisy Oh So Fresh. Now I'm pretty much a drugstore perfume type girl. But with this one, it's a clean and fruity fragrance that I am more than happy to splurge on. She's the kind of perfume I only wear on special occasions. Now let's paint her. I'm gonna primarily use watercolor on this one, starting with a peachy background to match the real thing. Now to work on this fancy cap with all those little daisies. They're like a silicone-y plastic type of material. Anyways, the way I am with colors and matchy-matchy stuff, I really wish they were all white or like the colors followed some sort of pattern. Oh, but they're just so random, it bothers me. Now for the perfume itself, I need another darker layer of that peachy pink. Okay, now I started going in with shadows on everything, giving it a little dimension. I also wanted the very edges of the page to be a slightly darker pink than the center. More shadows. I liked the softness of the watercolor, but decided to bump up the contrast by putting in more shading and color using colored pencils. In hindsight, I don't know if I would go that route again. Like, the softer look was so nice. But whatever, we're not looking back, we're only moving forward. Now this is where I decided to add some metallic gold gel pen to the gold areas. The original plan was just to do a little accent, but then I decided it didn't look right, so more gold it is. Also gotta do the label in gold. I love all of this shine. But it's still looking a little flat, so let me go ahead and add some deep blacks where the darkest shadows would be. Using the white Posca, let's do some juicy highlights. Now going in with colored pencil to add some softer shading. It's really coming together now. Oh, more highlights, please. Now onto the background. I took inspiration from the perfume box and wanted to add little daisies all around the edges. For this, I can definitely use those Poscas. I can't lie though, I was feeling a little underwhelmed with them at this point. The opacity was good, but not great. The paint flow was nice, but those nibs were shredding the paper. The sound and feel of them chewing it up, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Now let's give each daisy a yellow center, sign and date. Went back in and filled all the border gaps with some metallic gold dots, again, mimicking the box. Little Mod Podge, and we can call it done. Now let's take this party into the book. First step is to actually capture the scent of this perfume, so a little spritz ought to do. Let it dry. For my second page, I wanted to make it creepy. Creepify it, as I am one to do. I agonized on how to go about that, like what about daisies or flowers could be dark? Then I thought of one of the darkest scenes in one of my favorite shows, The Walking Dead. I'll elaborate later. First, I needed to start with a silhouette of a revolver. Then tape off my edges. I want the background to look like grass, so I'm starting with an all-over base of medium green acrylic and creating the look of grass blades across the top edge. Now once that was dry, I thought this would be another great opportunity to use the Poscas for the thin, swooping lines, which can be really tricky to do with a brush. However, once again, they left a little to be desired. The only green in my set was a bold, bright emerald green, which wasn't really the right color to work for the shadows. It wasn't quite dark enough, and it was way too, vivid. So maybe if the color selection was wider, this might have worked out better. Ultimately, I ended up just having to use my brushes anyways. I went in and added some highlighted blades of grass, and that really helped to add the depth I was trying to achieve with the Poscas. 'Twas a long, slow process, but I really loved the finished effect. So now we can pull our tape. Ah, so satisfying. With the background done, I can move on to the revolver now. Apologies in advance for my camera's inability to consistently focus here, but I was using the black Posca this time, and I worked on the outline. I do feel like the nib was a bit large for the detail I was trying to get in the silhouette. I know the Poscas can come in smaller sizes and more colors, but all I could think at this point was like how much money you'd have to spend, how many sets you'd have to buy to have a collection that would actually suit all of your art needs. Infinite Poscas, infinite money. With how the Poscas chew up the paper, I definitely didn't want to use one to color in the silhouette. Like, that's way too much space. So again, I switched over to the brush to get the job done. Turns out that may have been my best decision because I was absolutely brokenhearted to flip the page and discover that the Poscas bleed. Like, really bad. Kind of feel like it ruined my gremlin. Duh, my pet peeve. And I was truly shocked because traditional acrylic doesn't bleed like that. Maybe it's just because the paint in these has to be so liquefied to flow out of the pen properly. Oh well, we simply must press on. Time for the Walking Dead reference. Just look at the flowers. If you know, you know. If you don't, trust me, you don't want to know. The Walking Dead is full of deeply disturbing scenes, but for me, this one sits in the top 5. Now, the page wouldn't really make sense without the flowers, so let's add another border of daisies to match the ones on the other page. Next, I wanted to zhuzh up the prompt. I initially chose peachy pink to try and tie in the other painting, but something about it just felt off. While I marinated on how to fix it, I added the gold dots in between the border flowers, and that's when it struck me. More gold. I went over the prompt font again, this time with the gold. Definitely preferred that look. Mod Podge it all, glue on the other side, and just like that, it all comes together. I love this one. It's definitely a fun juxtaposition of like girly and grim, which, hey, quite on brand for me. I'm also pretty impressed with how many ways I found to incorporate the Poscas with this one. Overall, I'm very happy with it. Okay, next prompt. Create a page. Tear a page from an old book or magazine. Stick it onto this page. Find a way to make it more interesting.
Cut it up, write over it, incorporate it into a drawing, etc.
Let's start with my page. Page 263 of one of my favorite books, Gone Girl. Now, I would never defile such a wonderful book, so don't worry, it's just a photocopy. This particular page is a great one, right when the plot twist drops. I chose to make the page more interesting by drawing on it. Bet you didn't see that coming. I will, of course, be drawing Amazing Amy at what I feel is her most interesting point in the story. If you're unfamiliar, I really don't want to blow it, but the story begins almost as a mirror to the real-life story of Scott and Lacey Peterson. Beloved pregnant wife goes missing under suspicious circumstances. Husband behaving extremely suspicious. Sudden reveal, this turd of a man has been having an affair all along. Surely now there's no doubt he's behind his wife's disappearance. But in this book, all is not as it seems. I just love this story. Any psycho, fatal attraction style romance instantly grips me. Full disclosure, I did see the movie prior to reading the book. I will say that both are incredible in their own ways. Definitely prefer the book's ending, but love the spicier dialogue of the movie. Highly recommend both. All right, anytime I have a loose book page, why do I feel the need to make it look tea-stained? These are facts. And now is the time for blood. And blood there is, oh yes. I acknowledge this type of art is not for everyone. Some people like to get really vocal in the comments about that. This is simply not the channel for cupcakes and rainbows. Okay, well maybe once in a while, but I prefer stuff like this and will continue to sprinkle in the pieces that may go a little too far from time to time. Consider yourself warned. Sign and date. And for the Mod Podge, where you can watch my lovely crimson red become a neon orange before your very eyes. Ugh, so irritating when the colors change. But anyways, let's get into the book. So, you may have noticed several little spots here and there. I'm only a little bit embarrassed to admit that I may have dribbled a little bit of pizza grease on these pages while trying to eat dinner and work at the same time. But I'm resourceful. We can work with this. Let's just carry the tea stain over to this page too, and add it to the little book doodle. I wanted to add a quote to this side. It's very derivative of some of the text on page 263, but in my opinion, they made it just a little bit better in the movie, so that's where this line came from.
You think I'd let him destroy me and end up happier than ever?
Then with my red Posca went in with,
no f***ing way. He doesn't get to win.
So in the story, Amy mostly relays her thoughts through journal entries. So I added some journal lines to this quote. These were totally free-handed and unsketched, and I'm pretty proud of how straight they ended up. Next, I used the same blood red markers to color in the prompt, and decided to fill the little book doodle with some squiggles to look like words. Then I felt like the red words looked a little non-cohesive, so I did the black liner over those. Now they're like regular words, but glowing red with anger. Mod Podge it, glue in our page, and presto. Ugh, I just love this. Love the movie, love the book, and now love the art. And Gone Girl possibly perhaps might be making another appearance in my next episode, so seriously, if you haven't seen it, please do. I tried not to spoil any plot twists today, but there will definitely be spoilers in the next one, so yeah. And now we move on to the final prompt of the week. Create color. Make different colors by mixing paint. Give each color a creative name. Let's start by painting our background color, which is going to be white? What? Well, I wanted the colors I create to be the focus, not the background. So I thought it would be fun to go Harry Potter themed on this one. I will read off a description of a specific Harry Potter potion, then mix up a color that I think fits the description. I will then name the color after the potion from which it's inspired. Let's do this. Let's start off with an easy one. This potion is described as molten gold in color, with large drops that leap over the surface like goldfish. It is used for granting the drinker an extraordinary amount of luck for a short spell of time, hence the name Liquid Luck. Yes, we are creating Felix Felicis. I mixed up a nice golden yellow for this one. Now let's go in with colored pencils to refine some details. Of course we need some highlights. And I decided last minute I didn't want this vial to be full, but rather to be pouring out. So let me just fix that with a little acrylic right quick. A couple of sparkles and Felix Felicis is complete. On to the next. This potion is said to be clear and odorless, similar to water. A powerful truth serum. This potion forces the drinker to answer any questions asked of them truthfully. Yes, Veritaserum. For this one, I mixed up a very light blue sort of cyan color to translate as clear. Again, let's bring it to life with some colored pencil details. And juicy highlights. Ah, lovely. Next up, this potion is said to initially resemble thick, dark mud, bubbling slowly. But when the final ingredient of hair, toenail clippings, or even dandruff is added, the appearance and taste would alter to match the nature of the person from whom that ingredient had been taken. The potion would then allow the drinker to transform temporarily into that person. This is, of course, the Polyjuice potion. So I mixed a muddy brownish green and added lots of bubbles. A few highlights, and we can move right along. The next potion is described as having a mother of pearl sheen and spiraling steam. The scent of the potion is unique to each individual depending on what they are most attracted to. The most powerful love potion in existence, it causes a strong infatuation or obsession from the drinker. This is Amortentia. Now, the description didn't really say anything about color, but when I think love potion, it's gotta be pink. So I took my best stab at a pearlescent pink. A few sparkles and highlights, and yes, this is the only way I'm using the Posca in these pieces. Okay, this next one is one of the most difficult potions to brew. It is described as a color-changing potion, from a lilac to a clear. It is a sleeping draught used to bring upon the drinker a death-like slumber that can last indefinitely. Oh, that sounds divine.
I'm so tired.
I give you the Draught of Living Death. Did a nice purple to super light grayish blue for this one. A couple of tiny bubbles and some highlights finished this one off nicely. And for the last, I got to use some creativity on this one because there is no description of what it looks like visually. However, we do know that it is procured from the legendary Sorcerer's Stone. So long as the drinker consumed the potion regularly, they would experience immortality. Now, since the Sorcerer's Stone is red in color, that's what I chose to mix up for the potion. A little reddish orange. Lord, I struggled to get this one little front facet of the bottle to be the right color, but the final potion is the Elixir of Life. Kind of hard to see the gold at this angle, but like the others, finish it off with some juicy highlights. Okay, time out. Can I just sidebar for a second here? I feel like this is a really good opportunity to kind of ask a question. I'm putting this out to all of my followers in the UK. I know that the original title of the Sorcerer's Stone was the Philosopher's Stone. And then for whatever reason, they changed it in the US to be the Sorcerer's Stone. But in watching the movies, the characters say the Sorcerer's Stone. So I want to know, I've always wanted to know, and now I have the opportunity to ask, Do the movies in the UK still say the Sorcerer's Stone and you guys just had to deal with the change? Or did they make another version for the UK where they say the Philosopher's Stone? Let me know, I'm super curious. Sidebar over. Everything gets a coat of Mod Podge and a little chippity chop. Glue them in the book. Then to tackle the ultra bare background. Kind of regretting going white. Maybe black would have been better. Still not distracting, but something. Anyways, I started by adding those Felix Felicis potion droplets that are supposed to be leaping like goldfish. And then the swirling steam of the Amartentia potion. Everything else just gets some pretty little sparkles, like so. Add some color to the prompt, sign and date, and we are finished. This one was so fun. I honestly don't know if my favorite is the Amartentia or the Elixir of Life. I love red so much I'm drawn to that one, but I do love the pearlescence of the pink. It's a toss-up for me. Alrighty, let's do our recap of the week. We created a scented page by spraying the page itself with my favorite perfume, Daisy Oh So Fresh. Then created a painting of the lovely perfume bottle, but then we got dark with a little Walking Dead reference to flowers. We created a page, drawing Amazing Amy from Gone Girl right atop one of her own pages from the book. It's just a dark story that I love so much. Crazy people with their crazy love lives are just the most interesting. Sorry, not sorry. And lastly, we created color, mixing up a special paint color for an array of Harry Potter potions based upon their book descriptions. Love the colors, love the shine, love the sparkles. This is great. I had so much fun this week. I appreciate you guys giving me a little grace with being late on this video. Y'all are just great. But I promise I'm going to crank out some work and get caught up. Until next time, goodbye.